Good evening. I'd like to open up the town hall meeting for May 1st, 2018. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Tonight, we'd like to put out a lot of information and get some feedback from the public and also the people watching at home. If you could submit questions, and we'll do our best to get the answers back to you. Real quick, I want to start with my right, and we just kind of want to introduce the task force that's been involved with this the last 3-4 months. So go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nancy Crandall. I'm Director of Community Education Operation and Services, and I oversee the Senior Center.
And my name is Paul Peroni, the Township Supervisor.
I'm Diane Carroll. I'm the Director of the Bedford Senior Center.
Good evening. I'm Carl Schultz, and I'm the Superintendent of Bedford Public Schools.
And then we have also Dan Soda, who's in the audience, and his wife Sue Soda, and Al Pryor, who have been a part of this, and we really appreciate everybody's time and effort to kind of bring all the information together. We've been talking about this for roughly, what, it's been 4 months now?
About 4 months.
Roughly. We've been meeting pretty frequently with different entities. We've been visiting sites, talking to residents. We held a town hall meeting at the Senior Center. There's probably 80 people there last time. And we've got a lot of positive feedback, and we want to kind of continue that to find out what are the needs. Do we want to move the Senior Center? Do we want to build a new Senior Center? Do we want to renovate the one that they're in now? So we're just trying to kind of get the feel of what the people ultimately want. Because if we spend the money, we want people to use it. So I want to start off kind of with a little history from Diane, if you would, just kind of how it's run, how it operates, how it's funded.
Okay. Well, the Bedford Senior Center has been in existence since the early 1970s. It actually started growing in 1977 when they added the dining room and kitchen onto one end of the building. That's when we started with bringing more people up for games and dancing and activities, and started with the meal program. Prior to that, there would have been no kitchen there. So our goal is to provide social activities for mature adults age 55 and older. And what we're trying to find out too is those of the 55 to 65 group, what is it that you would like to see? We are dealing with kind of two groups of senior citizens in Bedford Township. We have those that are 75 to 85, and then the 55 to late 60s, and really their wants and needs are very different of what they would like to see, and we would like to come up with something that can accommodate everybody, but more of a mature adult community center for Bedford Township, to provide social activities, meals at a reasonable price, which again is a social thing for seniors. We have discovered many of the agencies will tell you that if a senior remains active, they are more likely to stay healthy, they are more likely to stay in their own homes, not become so frail that they can't even stay in their own homes. So we try to provide the services, and it's not just us. We have a lot of agencies in Monroe County that are doing the same thing, trying to provide services to the seniors in Monroe County. Our funding comes from several sources. Our main funder is the Monroe County Commission on Aging, which is your senior millage dollars. Those are distributed through them. That is probably half of our funding comes from them. The senior millage doesn't fund any program 100%. You do have to have other funding. Our Bedford Townships gives us money every year for the programs. United Way, we get funds for them. Our food is paid for by the donations from the seniors that are either on home delivered meals or those that come in for the congregate meal. It's a reasonable $3 donation for congregate, $350 for home delivered, and that money pays for the food. Okay? We get some donations too from some of our service clubs. The Bedford Lions Club and the Bedford Goodfellows have both been very generous to the senior center over the years. I just got donations from both of those within the last month, so they do support the seniors, and we appreciate that.
Okay. Dr. Carl, can you talk about the survey and kind of how people can get engaged with
Sure.
this and where it's at, where to find it?
Sure. As we started this process, we wanted to be able to reach out to the community, not only the citizens that are utilizing the Bedford Senior Center, but also those that could utilize it, but maybe weren't sure what the programs were and availability. And then the second part of it was really how I became a member of this group was, what's the appropriate location for the center to be housed in? The current location is on the outside of town, and there has been a lot of talk about the needs of the facility itself, whether we can revitalize it with some renovation, whether we look for a center that is more centrally located, and where would that be, and what would be needed, and what kind of facility would that be. So with all those questions, we wanted to create a very brief survey. So I was asked to put together a Google Forms survey, which is available both electronically as well as in paper form. We have them on the table over here, and I believe there's 6-7 questions. Very brief. If you are someone who is computer savvy and would like to take it online, you can go on to the Bedford Public Schools site. We have put it on social media in a number of locations, as well as it's available at the Senior Center and this evening. If you do it in paper copy, we will add your information to our master sheet. And really what we're looking for is a broad sense of what the community and what the senior citizens who are looking to utilize the facility are asking for. And as well as this survey, it kind of has been a guiding tool for our first town hall. And then tonight, we're hoping that we can look at some of the questions on here and just have an open dialogue on what are some of the great ideas that our community has, and what should we be looking for as we move forward with this leadership group.
Yeah. Nancy, can you touch on what some of the younger seniors are looking for?
That's what we really need to find out. I think for a lot of what we've been hearing is that they would like to be closer to town. They would like more fitness activities and more themed events, things that they can kind of come in and enjoy the center. So those are things that we really want to look at. How do we attract the younger seniors, but not forgo the seniors that are already coming to the facility? So we have a broad group that we need to reach and hear from. So.
And that was part of the discussion of the name.
Correct.
You know, a lot of people, like Al sitting over there, he he doesn't consider himself a senior, even though he is. Sorry, Al. But we got to figure out, how can we capture that generation, and part of it could be detracting is the name. Right. So we've got to get creative in what can't we do with that? Can we change the name? Can we make it something that we call a community center? Right. How would the funding work with that? So there's a lot of things that gets involved with that. Dr. Carl, if you had something you wanted to add.
No, I was just going to say, and one of the things that we have discussed at great detail is, while the senior center is currently under the umbrella of the Bedford Public Schools, it's an entity that is self-sufficient. We do not supply any fiscal funds toward the operation. We do partner in some of our maintenance custodial pieces, and the current facility is owned by the district. However, the funds to operate the programs can thereby go after additional funds that they might not be able to apply for currently under the status of being associated with the public school system. I get a chuckle out of people saying, well, they've got school money. I can assure you there is no school money that is sitting there as a pile. You are self-sufficient, and we want to put the senior center in the best possible capacity to be able to attract additional funding sources, whether it's through grants, state, national, or partnerships with other nonprofit entities such as yourself. Yeah. So that's kind of the other caveat to this conversation. Number one, how do we reorganize? What does that look like? and what is the structure of the reorganization. And I think the Commission on Aging, well, I know from being at the last meeting, they're expecting a plan coming forward to their next fall meeting when we go back to them for funding. Because we do have to present our business plan for the year with them, and then we kind of go back and forth on what our needs are. They would like to see the program be self-sufficient, and they'd like to see the program kind of go after additional funding sources as well outside of the umbrella of the school district. And as a district, I can't speak for the entire Board of Education. Mr. Ron Cook is here listening tonight, one of our esteemed members, but we're very supportive as a district. We don't want to see the senior center move in a direction that's not going to be competitive to be able to be sustainable, and we want to see it thrive. We know that the population in Bedford is getting older. We know they want to have places to go, they want to have activities, and we want to see that happen, whether it's in one of our facilities, one of either the land that we own, or one of our buildings currently unoccupied, or the current location. Whatever that might be, we want to be helpful in that approach.
And just so everybody knows, at any time, anybody could come up and ask a question to the podium right there. So feel free to come on up. Nancy, if you just want to touch real quick, just for full transparency with funding, you received a large donation, and I want to make sure everybody's aware of the kind of what spurred this talk. They got a large donation, so myself and Mr. Pryor met with ProMedica of a possible partnership with the Y a couple months back, and they seemed very receptive of it. So if you want to kind of talk about a little bit about that, where you're sitting financially.
What happened was we had a long-time member. He was not only a member of the Bedford Senior Center, him and his wife, but they were both very active in the RSVP program when we had it here in Bedford. His wife had passed away several years back, and then he passed away. And about a year after he had passed away, I got a letter in the mail from Monroe Bank and Trust that he had named the Bedford Senior Center as in his trust, that he was leaving us money. And at the time, there was paperwork we had to have filled out, which Sharon Ramirez, who's out there, she filled it all out for us, and we sent it into Monroe Bank and Trust. And a lot of time went by, and we hadn't heard anything. And I'd call them every once in a while, and they'd say, well, they were just not ready to distribute yet. Because taxes had to be paid, everything had to be taken care of for the estate of the man that passed. So anyway, lo and behold, one day I went out in the mailbox, get the mail, and we had another senior pass away that had come to the senior center quite a bit, and he always came for lunch, and he ended up getting sick, and he passed away, and he left his estate, which really consisted of his house here in Bedford Township, and the attorneys, they sold the house, and we got $43,000, I think, from his estate. So between the two estates, it gave us a cushion that we could at least start thinking about maybe we could do something in Bedford to make the senior programs bigger and better than we're able to do where we're at. Our building is old. It's on 2 levels. Really, we have one room, which is the dining room, that we can do the food program, the exercise programs, the dancing, the euchre players play in the dining room. The room, we have one conference room upstairs that won't accommodate those programs. So we're limited as to what we can do. We can really only have one thing going at a time. And we have to plan our activities either before lunch or after lunch. And if they're doing something, they have to stop because we have to have the dining room to serve the meals. And we have an elevator and steps going upstairs. Because of the age of the building, I think the people don't want to use the elevator. They're afraid of getting caught and stuck in there. I don't think it's going to happen, but it has happened. So the age of the building, and we talked about maybe enlarging the building, adding on. There's nowhere to go without taking away our parking lot. We don't have enough parking now, so we really can't take away any of our parking spaces either. So the only thing we can do if we want to grow and enlarge is to find a piece of property or an adequate building to have another senior center.
So what we did, the monies that was then left to the senior center was put into a restricted building account, so that will go towards a building or remodeling of some sort once we find the appropriate location.
And let's talk about that. We've spent quite a bit of time kind of studying and talking about where we'd like to see it. We kind of got a good idea of what some of the needs would be.
I could talk briefly about the current survey status. We've had over 75 surveys completed and already turned in that we've analyzed. And a quick analysis, it seems that the popular choice is to have a center that's more centrally located, easier to get to, that is closer to other amenities, perhaps restaurants and shopping and maybe something they could partner with. And so in looking at that, when I first came on the job just a long 4 months ago, one of the folders that I was looking for was we have a facility, Temperance Road Elementary, as you know, that is not currently being fully utilized. And while it's not officially on the market as for sale, I saw a big highlighted statement on there, Bedford Senior Center, not interested in Temperance Road Elementary. And it was underlined and bolded. So we moved on and we've had some other discussions. However, at the previous town hall, I was astonished to find that a lot of conversation was centered around potentially a partnership or a more community center-based location at potentially Temperance Road Elementary. And then the other very popular concept has been from the beginning potentially a partnership on Dean Road with the YMCA and being just adjacent to that. And so those have kind of really been the two focal points, I think, for the most part. We've talked about other buildings, available spaces, available land. As you heard, the pot of that's been set aside is not in the $2 million range. It's closer to, I think, are we 700,000 almost now? So it's 600. So it's enough to get started. It's enough for a concept. It's going to take a partnership of some sort, I believe, in my personal opinion, to really make the environment that we're looking for as a community. And whether that is entities such as ProMedica or one of the other major health chains or other nonprofit organizations that want to have an office in this part of the county. I think those are the options we have to look at really creating the space that we need. Because it does come back to having to take, you need a space not to take down and set up every single day.
Well, that was something that was talked about is more property, for people to plant a garden for the seniors, and maybe some walking trails on the property or some stuff like that. But go ahead, you had.
I was going to say, just so you know, we did look first to see if there were any buildings physically already standing that we could renovate, and we pretty much exhausted all of the properties that are empty at this point in time in Bedford Township. We thought that would be the easiest way to go, is just to retrofit another facility. That is not going to happen at this point. So then we turned to looking at some of the other properties that might be available, but.
I'd like, the last town hall, we had some great conversation about that with the community that attended. Is there anyone that has a thought about either those two, or that would like to talk about another option that we haven't yet discussed?
Yep, come right up onto the mic. Al, you make sure that mic's on.
All I know is for me, what would work, and I have neighbors that I tried to get to come, but I don't know if they would come or not. Some of them I think would if it was closer. I live in Summerfield Woods, which is just 1 mile from Toledo. And I've gone to the senior center some years ago, and I just decided, especially in the winter, it's too far. And I go to the Sylvania Senior Center, and I go maybe 5 times a month. And I go to one group that I love there, and I don't think it's much farther for me to drive there than it is to go to Bedford Senior Center. But I also go to the Y often in the library, and they both have wonderful activities for seniors. There's all kinds of seniors at the Y. And I also go to things at the library that are mainly seniors because they're during the day. So I think if you can afford it, that area would be great for me.
And I think that was something that was talked about with the library and with the Y. There's so many senior services at all these other locations and buildings. That might be why we don't get as many people. But great comment. Any more comments? Al, I see you have something written down there.
Somebody has a question. Does the senior center have any equity in its current location? And if sold, does the school system claim all the money from the sale of the building?
We've been there 48 years, and we pay $1 a year, so we have $48 invested.
Which we'll write $50 into a check if you'd like.
Come on up, sir.
Hi, good evening. A couple of years back, I was sort of representing the senior center as a liaison, with the school board, and there was some discussion at that time, with Mark Kleinhens about the possibility of the senior center and the school board splitting use of Temperance Road Elementary. And to me, I still feel like that makes a lot of sense. I would think that if they did that, that the property that they're using now, the offices on Stearns Road, are probably much more marketable than what Temperance Road Elementary is. So I mean, if that was a possibility, to use that Temperance Road Elementary School for the, in that way, it would seem to be to make sense. And I just wanted to bring it up again. I think I did mention them before, but I don't know if you've thought about, along those lines at all, but I just wanted to mention it again.
Well, we have, and I've read through some of the reports that Mark had in terms of we have talked in just my brief time here, and I know they did a lot more work prior to my arrival. We've talked about many uses for the different, structures that we currently have. Temperance Road, of course, being currently vacated, the popular one. And having had my office now on Stearns Road and the strange configuration of it, I would be joyful to have a well-established board office location. The issue really does come down to the senior center does not have enough funds to revitalize all of Temperance Road, and at this point, the Board of Education in our current funding, we also do not have the money to renovate for the needs. We would like to. We talked about it at our previous work committee of the whole meeting last week, or 2 times ago. We talked about that option once again. We've also talked about community education potentially partnering with that facility. We had another community group that was interested, that they're going to go a different way. So we've talked about a lot of different structures. The reality is that if the community is looking to do something quickly, which I think the senior center has to, we just don't have the funds at this exact moment to move our building. And I do believe that Stearns Road would be an easier sell because of the location and just the size of it. Not a lot of people need an empty school building. But our facility might be more enticing for somebody to purchase for a business. We're just not really in a position at this moment to go out to attract community funds through a bond to revitalize that. We have so many other needs in our infrastructure and our facilities that, we're looking at at this moment, we're looking and discussing a bond potential that is just going to fix the buildings to make them a safe learning environment for our students and not to move our board office. But I like the plan, I do. We've talked about it, and our board, I think, has some interest in it as well. It's just that at this point, we just don't have the funds set aside to make that transition.
And that's kind of what ProMedica is waiting on, is a plan. We need to take a plan to them, because that was what we ended the meeting with them last time, is come back with a plan so we can actually have a dollar amount. I just got a social media question. What about Smith Road?
Smith Road is pretty full at the moment, actually. It houses our technology department, our servers. In addition, it houses our GSRP program, the Great Start Readiness Program. And we also are renting out a large chunk of that facility as well to an outside group. So for all the way through next June, it is going to be in that mold. And with the building that the township has, we may have the need to move classes over to that location as well. in some capacity, in some design. So that's probably the more likely, and the building's in better shape to do so. So I don't think that that's a viable option and there's no room for the administrative offices over there. But if you look at Smith Road, while it's not currently a fully functioning elementary school, it is full at the moment. It's just a different, variety of programs.
And there had been some discussion in the past about moving the robotics and technology department to Temperance Road also. So I don't know, maybe we could take a closer look at that, or, maybe it's a possibility, maybe it's not. Maybe they could arrange a bridge loan, somehow to, to do the construction and then pay it off with a sale of the the Stearns Road property.
Yeah,
So.
we had at one time, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, an estimate or some kind of evaluation on what it might take to bring Temperance Road up to what would be a fully functioning facility, and it was in the multi-million-dollar range. Yeah. So it was quite exorbitant at that time. Now, I don't know what all was entailed in that renovation, but again, nothing's off the table.
Okay.
We're looking at all options. That's kind of why we're here this evening. And a few weeks ago, we really do want to get the ideas and to find out first what is the site, and then come up with a plan to create that partnership that I think can bring in some additional funds.
So my purpose is just to provoke some thought on it, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Larry.
Anybody else have any questions in the audience?
I'll say one more thing about Temperance Road. We had a lot of discussion. I think this is the third time that we've actually discussed Temperance Road. And the reason that we had sent the school board a letter saying that Temperance Road was off the table, we can't afford to sustain that, even if we have the money to remodel it and bring it up to par. Because of the heating systems and the lighting systems, the utilities in that building, we would not have enough money to sustain that on our own. We'd have to have other programs in there that would share those costs.
Okay. All right, so just so we can kind of talk a little bit about, we have looked at other options. We have talked to the Monroe County Community College about a possible partnership with the Whitman Center. We've talked about the library, the Bedford Branch Library, possibly doing something there to where we could maybe put a wing on or something. There's a lot of things that we are talking about. We don't know whether or not we can or can't do them. But that's where we're at this point, is just kind of brainstorming sessions. So we're really trying to narrow it down to where,
We had another question.
Can you please come up to the mic? There, I'm sorry. Okay, what is the question? Go ahead.
I just happen to think, has anybody ever thought about putting together a daycare center with a senior center?
Yes, we have. We've talked about a multi-generational center that would be from the entire life cycle of a person, that we would start with a young age group and go on to the senior population.
There's such a dearth of daycare centers. I don't know in Bedford if there is, but I don't know if that could even make a profit or not, but there'd be so many. What? Do you mean adult daycare or? No, I mean child.
Yeah. So it'd be a-
And just so everybody at home knows, the question that was asked, what about a multi-generational facility? And that has been something we talked about. Come on up to the mic. But good thought, though. That's a really good thought.
Right, that's what I was going to mention. Also, you might want to join an adult daycare center along with our senior center, like Frenchtown does in Monroe, and they get other funding from other sources for their adult daycare center. So that's a thought also, but, and the only other thing we need to keep in mind with the COA money is that those funds strictly are for 55 and older use only. So they would definitely have to be kept separated out.
Okay. Any more thoughts from board members up here, or any more discussion?
No, I mean, I think that we haven't really talked about the YMCA other than the utilization by the community. The thought for the YMCA was, how large a facility would it need to be? In order to make that determination, really, we have to then talk about what the survey, the other point of the survey, which were What do you want out of this center? Do you need it for physical activities? Is it a meeting space? I think the initial drawings, and there were some drawings completed at one point, were they 13,000 square feet, I believe? 14,000 square feet, which is a large facility, especially for a new construction. But the question really remains, if you were close to the YMCA, would you need to have the physical activity space, because you'd be able to utilize or hopefully partner with the Francis family YMCA, and then maybe it's the large kitchen for the Meals on Wheels, and it's the gathering space for the recreational activities and dances and things of that nature. Yes?
Come on up.
I would say, yes, you still need the physical activity in hand with the YMCA, because a lot of our seniors that come there cannot afford to pay to go to the Y every year. And the Commission on Aging, Cynthia and myself represent that board, provided seed money for the YMCA to bring in the physical therapy classes that are going on right now, and we just awarded some seed money for them to bring in a diabetic program to the senior centers. So I think the health issues are going to be big in the future, and I think the younger end of the seniors are going to look for those type of activities more and more.
Thank you.
That was part of the survey also, is to find out what kinds of programs and activities you want to see in the future senior center. And we have on the survey a list of about 12 different things, but we're open to other suggestions and would love to hear what you want to have in a senior center.
And that was something, we toured the Sylvania Senior Center. They had a woodwork shop. They had, a really nice facility for workout, with a softer floor. They did have a dining room hall, a computer room, a billiards room.
Quilting room.
Yeah, quilting room, library. So, I mean, there was kind of something for everybody. They do, I think they rent it out,
Yes, they do.
for different functions. They have an outdoor patio. They have, but they are attached to Tam O'Shanter, so they were able to get federal funding. I think they got the largest federal funding of $750,000 for that attachment to that facility. So, what?
You made me forget what I was going to say. No, I just wanted to say, our numbers for the people coming into our building are tracked for age 60 and over, because that's how our commission aging dollars are coming in. But of the 1,000 people we served in 2017, only 200 were between 60 and 69. 800 were over 70. So the 800 number is a great number, but we need to bring that younger group up to a better number to serve that population. And we just haven't had the right things going on and the location to serve those. And also, it's very important to us to be able to continue to serve our homebound seniors in Bedford Township. We have a large number of people that are homebound, that get Meals on Wheels, and they need the services too. So I want to make sure they don't get lost in the shuffle.
Very good. Any more thoughts? Do you want to kind of go over the questions that
Sure.
that we would come up with? And
Sure, these are the questions of the survey that you can find on the table. First, we asked for an age grouping. We broke it down by 10-year spans, 15 under. And the reason for the 15 under question, while we don't currently have a funding source to support the 15 under, we do know that as we look forward to the large number of citizens that are going to be eligible for funding through the Commission on Aging and other programs, we want to be able to prepare for the future. We want to be able to create a facility based on the interests that that population has as well. 51 to 60, 61 to 70, 71 to 80, and then 80 and over. And really that is just so that we can get a good idea of who is looking to utilize the facility, and as well as do an analysis on which age group based on, in addition to which of the activities that we're asking. The second question was, how often do you personally utilize the center currently? Once per week, at least once per month, at least every other month, at least once per year, less than a year, or I have never used it. And hopefully we can look at the questions at the people who use it on a regular schedule. What do they like about it? And we can also, those who use it very rarely, whether it's too far from your homes, or they just don't offer anything that you're looking to get in, or the hours are off and you need earlier, you need later hours. That's also a possibility. And the next question would be, what programs do you currently utilize at the Bedford Senior Center? Volunteering, Meals on Wheels, the lunches held on-site, enhanced fitness programming, card playing groups, quilting groups, the excursions or the trips, and then fundraisers and events that take place, whether dancing. And we really, again, want to cross-reference the age groups with the activities to see how popular they are, and if you only come just for those events specifically. The next question is, what programming would you like to see added? And this goes to some of the tours that have been taken of other facilities, things that are being offered in other locations that we just haven't experienced yet. So some of the additional fitness programs that might be more geared towards specific population, male, female, classes such as cooking, nutritional classes, arts and crafts, things of that nature, educational programs, having guest speakers come in, having students come in with their classes. It's being that it's a little further from some of our elementary and our buildings, it's hard to transport students there and back. And a quick, if it was closer to our elementary or one of our elementaries, we could have more student programs where they're working with the center and the members of the center. Organized games, bingo, bridge club, euchre, hearts, things of that nature, and then themed events such as themed meals or gatherings, movie nights, those type of activities. And then we also asked the question about what are the best hours of the day for you? What would you prefer? What would you utilize it if it were longer in the evening or earlier in the day? And then finally, it was about the center being able to expand and what would be your location preference. And that would renovate the current site as it sits, build a new center located closer to the center of township, purchase and renovate an existing location if available, or something other. And then we had an open-ended question just to give us your feedback and your comments. And we thought they're not real detailed questions because we were hoping to be able to cross-reference the information and come up with some concepts that were themes so that we can move forward with planning. Because I think the next step really is to take the information gathered to create a plan to share with entities such as ProMedica or other potential partners. And that will include the idea of what location it might be in, what that can look like, how much space we would have to share, and everything that goes into it. And then once we get the location and the organization set up, we'll look at what's provided, what's available, and how we utilize the space for the community at its best.
Question?
Well, I had one other thing I wanted to add. We're all here, we're trying to put our heads together to sort of figure out what direction, and
Absolutely.
we might want to go. But actually, I'd like to sort of turn this around a little bit. I mean, could I ask the four of you to think about and maybe just make a brief, sentence or comment about where you might see the future of the senior center going? Just trying to get an understanding of what your thoughts are on this.
Okay, go ahead, Nancy.
Basically, I see the senior center becoming a 501c3 and being its own independent entity, whether in its current site or a new site. With that comes the opportunity for additional grants and partnerships to expand the programs and the activities that they now offer, and then hopefully open it up to a broader group of people in a location that I think would be more beneficial to the larger population.
Thank you.
For me, it's the plan. With the plan, we find out what kind of partnerships we can have, because without the partnerships, we would depend on a lot of other things, millage, a lot of people don't like to hear that, neither do I. And then, private funding. So really, we have to come up with a plan and figure out what the partnership with ProMedica would look like. And if there's not one, then we have to really put our heads together to see how we move forward, so.
Would you envision like sort of a community center type of setting, or just strictly seniors? Or?
We've done a lot of research, and just in general, senior centers are declining. You know, people don't use them as much anymore. So we have to get creative in what we do. We can't continue to do the same thing. You know, so we've got to really nail down what it is we can do and still receive funding. I like the idea of the standing alone. You know, but also I like the idea of, you know, the 10 acres next to the YMCA and having a facility, you know, more centrally located. I do like that idea, but we got to be able to fund it, so.
And I think if we look closely at what people in that, you know, the 55 to 70 age group, what they want to do with their spare time, and what they do when they go out into the town, or, you know, whether it's in Toledo or wherever else, what kind of activities, you know, they partake of, or what they like to do. I think that would give us some clues on what direction, you know, and what some of the activities are that would work at our senior center.
Just so
or
you
our
guys know,
community
we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Just so you know. So go ahead,
All right.
Dan.
I think more of a community-type center for mature adults, let's just say, our 55 and older group. Our funding, especially our senior millage, is based on people actually being in our building. We only get funding if you come to the building and you spend some time there, whether it's for lunch or doing an activity. We need to bring more people in to be able to go back and ask for the senior millage dollars to grow. It's kind of catch-22. I think people would like to see more what I call the social meal, which is your dinner hour. Right now, we don't have the money to cover even the payroll to have a second shift kitchen staff to do that type of thing. So again, I think if we had, I don't know an evening meal, where we're located, how successful. I know when we do a fundraiser dinner, which we are having one a week from Friday, May 11th, that's pork roast.
Good plug, good plug.
So I hope you all come to that. But when we do a fundraiser dinner, they're quite successful. If we had ongoing evening meal, especially in the winter, for people to drive out as far as we are, I don't think that, you know, I can't do a dinner and have 10 or 15 people show up. That just wouldn't be cost effective. So we need to have somewhere where we can bring people in on a steady basis during the day so that we can build the programs into the evenings too.
I believe that it's, wherever the location is, it's the flexible space that will allow a multitude of activities to take place, where the members can bring their families along with them to share meals, to have other activities for their kids, that's large enough and it's flexible enough to be able to have a garden or have the other activities that were mentioned. And I'm getting on some of these surveys. I think they're great ideas. And so we haven't had a bad idea yet. So whatever that looks like, and whether it's on district property or it's a partnership with the district, again, we're looking for the same plan in order for me to take it to our Board of Education to be able to get closer to solidifying, you know, that deal. I really think there are some spaces available and that are closer, more conducive to getting there quickly and safely. And so we're looking forward to that collection of data. So I just, if you know somebody who hasn't filled this survey out yet, we really are going to use this to help drive our decision-making, in addition to some of the points made this evening in our previous meeting. So we'll progress, but I think that the next time you hear from this group, we'll have a much more solid plan that won't be solidified entirely, but it'll have specific options, and not just a brainstorming session.
Okay, very good. I'm getting a wave in the back, so I had better adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you everybody for listening at home. If anybody has any questions after the meeting, feel free to come on up, but we stand adjourned.